you so much for coming to the first PRCA Digital Group webinar of 2024. It's lovely to have so many people joining us this morning. We've got a pretty jam-packed session for the next kind of hour, so we're going to kind of jump straight into it. I'm just going to bring up some slides. Always challenging to talk and share at the same time, but I'm going to do my best to do this now. We are here today to talk about predictions, which seems like a pretty good thing to be doing at the beginning of January. And I have assembled a stellar group of people who are going to talk you through 10 predictions in 60 minutes. These are all leading digital leaders from across our industry who have each picked a prediction and are going to sort of take 3 to 4 minutes to sort of walk you through each one in turn. We can definitely share the slides with you afterwards if that's useful. And we will also do our very best to try and keep a little bit of time for any questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, please use the chat functionality or the Q&A functionality on Zoom. As we do have 10 presenters doing each of these predictions, if you've got a particular question for a particular presenter, please do let us know who you are asking the question to, and that will just help us in the Q&A section. So yeah, please do that. Any other issues or challenges, please put it in the chat and one of the PRCA team will help you out. But apart from that, I think we're just going to get going. And the first person is my co-chair of the PRCA Digital Group, Candice Cuss, who is going to kick us off with prediction number 1. Candice, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Danny. Okay. For the next slide, I'm going to start a little personal story, but relevant, I think, in that in 2009, I learned about the death of Michael Jackson via Twitter. But in 2023, I learned about the death of Tina Turner via WhatsApp. So while Tina's death maybe meant more to me personally, I don't think I'll ever forget that 2009 moment, because it was the very first year that Cannes had introduced the PR Lion, and I had gotten Biz Stone, one of Twitter's co-founders, to be my agency's guest speaker at the festival. Back then, there was zero advertising on the platform, which strangely seems where they're headed now again. But we all know that dark social doesn't mean the mess on X. It's a term invented by marketers that only they could love, which basically just means private sharing between people where we can't track you. Now, it's always been the biggest digital comms channel for regular people because it's email, it's texting, it's direct messaging. And WhatsApp is always referred to as dark social, but sometimes we forget it's the 3rd most popular platform in the entire world. It's ahead of Instagram. It's got twice the users of TikTok, and it's miles and miles ahead of Twitter, as we know. So this is my obvious prediction. I get to kick it off. So I picked something I'm pretty sure we've been talking about for a while. And that is, as the use of social media goes down, brand use of dark social will go up. And this might be more wish list than prediction, but we're going to find a better name. Maybe it's direct social, maybe it's private sharing, but the whole term just doesn't really suit anymore. Okay, Danny. I think it's a very easy prediction because, again, we've talked about it for quite a while, that Meta is going to double down on monetizing WhatsApp. Zuckerberg actually recently referred to WhatsApp as the next chapter for his company. Of course, even though it was founded in 2009, he's definitely turning his attention toward it. And we know that they've been doing this already with WhatsApp for Business. I think a lot of you might be using WhatsApp for Business with your clients and having success with that. But I predict they're going to find new ways, and hopefully not just plain advertising, but new ways to make money from the consumer side as well. And I think, as well as hope, we're going to see brands getting much more creative and not just using it for direct messaging, making direct messaging like direct mail or for customer service. I think they're going to find something much more sparky. Okay, Danny. Now, there's of course many more messaging apps than WhatsApp. And all the public platforms, if you follow what their new feature sets are, they keep enhancing the DM functionality, the private options. So how do regular people keep up? Well, Beeper is one of the somewhat new, but has been around, but still in beta, is an app that wants to be our one ring to gather all our messages in one place. So the second half of my prediction is that 2024, we're going to see a lot of innovation in this particular area. And Meta might even keep their promise of adding interoperability to threads. So interoperability is the buzzword I predict for 2024. Okay, Danny. So welcome back to the age of private sharing. Or is it private? I don't know, but I had to put in at least one creepy AI image. So thank you very much, and DM me.
Hi, everyone. Over to me. So I'm Kate Matlock, and my prediction is that I think we're going to be listening more in 24. And this prediction is somewhat born out of my own changing user behavior for consuming media. However, as I think back over the past year, I only really recall a handful of clients who have been changing up their content briefs or investing. But I expect this is going to change and continue to change, especially as video is being continuously optimized on social. So as you start planning your strategies and content plans for the upcoming year, just consider how maybe this is going to impact and how you might integrate sound into what you are doing. So first slide, or next slide up, please, Danny. So with sort of a sound on, platforms like TikTok are saying, you know what, we're competing with Netflix. We're not trying to compete with Meta. So for your attention. And so audio and that entertainment first approach is really becoming critical in our content production. So how might this be showing up in your own content campaigns? Well, we know short form videos like TikToks and Reels are heavily relying on sound and music, and jumping on those trending sounds, especially where it's possible, to show that relevance and personality is going to be super important. So I don't know, like if you guys have been scrolling through TikTok as much through the holidays as I was. I finally got on the bandwagon. I'm there. But the Benjamin's Deli stuff that's been going on there, and if you don't know it, go check it out. But Welling, London Philharmonic Orchestra, Empire State Building, like they're all jumping on that same trend. And I love what they're doing. I just think it really shows great personality. The second one I have put in there is around sonic branding. So having a recognizable sonic brand can really enhance brand recall and create a consistent brand experience across the various social media platforms. You might consider a branded soundscape that aligns with your brand personality, or you could work with a music branding creative agency like Loud Parade, who works with Nike and Fenty and Yosushi, and start creating bespoke tracks that are owned, not rented by your brand. And by the way, if you have any ideas about things that you've been seeing and hearing, please put those in the notes, because I always love to see what you're spotting too. And third one is obviously musicians and influencers in the music industry can really help amplify your brand's reach and make your content more relatable to your audience. Next slide, please. So another thing I noticed was a lot more use of voiceover in videos, which I think has been really great for adding a storytelling dimension to the videos. And be honest, like if you've ever done any sort of content creation, it's a lot easier to create and edit a voiceover than it is to do a big, direct to camera piece. So why might you want to incorporate this? So start using voiceover to narrate your brand story, a day in the life, testimonial, a how-to. I just think it gives a more personal experience and allows you to get into those details and provide something fun and useful to the audience. Second, voiceover really enhances accessibility and it makes content more inclusive for audiences, especially with visual impairment. So consider providing alternative audio descriptions for visually oriented content. And third, just that, voiceovers can really infuse emotion and personality, and it makes brand messages more memorable, increasing brand recall, and it just really makes that lasting impression on the audience. And next slide, please. So finally, while I started talking about video, I also just really wanted to tap into one more way to create listenable content, and podcasts are the way. I don't know if you are like me and have a lot of subscriptions to things right now, and I just think podcasts are more popular than ever. I think COVID was a big reason for this, because when you couldn't film, everyone seemed to have a podcast. So, there are 2.5 million shows out there that have diverse range of content. They're catering to all different interests and niches. People are spending 7 hours per week listening to podcasts. I am probably one of those, but it really does present that opportunity for brands to engage with the audience in a more intimate and long form setting. So you might start thinking about this as brand owned. So producing it end to end, featuring your subject matter experts and bringing in influencers and thought leaders. You can also go on earned and or paid for placement route. So for example, offer your expert up as a guest speaker or give access to exclusive information to a relevant podcaster to share and discuss. And third is pretty straightforward, which is just tap into that listening audience by including streaming platforms in your ad buy. So hope you agree with my prediction that you're going to probably be listening more in 24, and I look forward to hearing how you're going to be integrating audio into your plans. Over to Olivia.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Hi everyone, I'm Liv, Director of Client Services at social agency Cooler. Really happy to be in this panel and excited to be hearing about what everyone's predictions are for the next year. So my prediction for 2024 is around seeing even more emphasis on the role of the community manager. Content and content creation is definitely king, but engaging with your audience and having that two-way dialogue really brings to life a brand's personality, shows that they're more human, and gives their audience the confidence that the brand cares about their world, cares about what they're interested in, and just general culture. So I thought it'd be a good time to share some of the examples of how we won for our clients in 2023. Next slide, please, Danny. So tapping into cultural trending moments, audience commentary highlights, how your brand can speak and their tone of voice. I think a great example of this was last week, actually, where everyone was talking about Luke Littler, unexpected kebab-loving 16-year-old darts player. Obviously, our client Deliveroo have an interest in food. That's what they talk about on their channels. So we jumped on this opportunity and saw some immediate success just by engaging with our audience, having that two-way dialogue. For our client Samsung, we've also done this by tapping into K-pop as a subculture, which drives some really huge success for Samsung's audience. And this can be done across all platforms. So having that conversation on TikTok, having it on Instagram, of course, having it on X and on Facebook can drive some great conversations. You can get to know your audience and just play in that reactive world and reactive space. But being reactive and playing in culture definitely does come with its risks. And you never want to be stuck at the end of silence brand, which I'm sure if you're a community manager or in the social world, you have been. So Danny, just next slide, please. So yeah, I'm sure if you are a community manager, you've definitely seen this meme 1 or 2 times, and it's something that you definitely want to try and avoid if you can. So I've put together some rules for winning in reactive. So the first one, as I said, silence brand. A community manager's role of integrating themselves into the pop culture of their community is crucial for this technique to work. Different audiences, of course, have different ways of seeing through it, but Gen Z in particular are notorious for being able to sense this inauthenticity and will be able to quickly identify any generic comments that are just trying to capitalize on their niche. So you need to be careful. You need to, that's why content pillars are so important. Like, pick the things tonally that you would speak about and the things that you wouldn't speak about as a brand. So just on that is don't go rogue. So important to have a signed off strategy, tone of voice and guidelines. And that's a great way as well to ensure that if you are an agency, that your clients trust you. They know the do's and the don'ts. We use a traffic light system. So things that are green that we would touch, things that are amber that we would maybe touch, but might need approval. And then a red is just a complete no-go. Stan the fan. So a reoccurring line, inside joke, or something that only Stans can understand will be heroed because the community is recognizing the brand as someone just like them, one of us. So the comments don't need to be a reinvention of the wheel, but need to be easily recognizable to the fan base, signaling to them that the brands get them. And the final one is speed is everything. This is so important when it comes to reactive and community engagement. Being slow is definitely worse than doing nothing at all. So to summarize, creating incredible content is really, really important. Don't take away of the value of investing in content, but the journey after something's posted and having that two-way dialogue with fans can produce some serious value, and it's important not to shy away from that. Passing on to the next one.
Hi, my name's Ela. I'm an account director at Shiny, the social arm of Red Consultancy, working with Danny. And today I'm going to be chatting through something that we started seeing in 2023 and are expecting to really take off going into 2024. And that is the rise of influencer value exchanges. So firstly, what do I actually mean by a value exchange? So it's a transaction between two parties that results in each party receiving something of value, some kind of benefit from the transaction. And I know what you might be thinking, aren't normal influencer partnerships value exchanges? This is where the terminology, like everything that we tend to do in the social and digital sphere, becomes kind of a grey area, because of course in current influencer marketing sphere, they are always paid. So I wanted to clear up what I don't think is included in this evolution. Firstly, I definitely don't mean cash. Cash obviously does have a literal value, but it's a bare minimum requirement for modern influencers. I also don't mean gifting. So gifting has been slowly phased out across the influencer world, really, except perhaps in the high-end travel industry or for nano influencers as well. Nowadays, gifting is more often a perk of an influencer ambassador scheme rather than something that's seen as a value to the influencer. Finally, and I really hope nobody is shocked by this one, I 1000% do not mean exposure. It's not valuable for influencers who probably get better engagement rates than your brand anyway, so definitely not something we should be doing anymore. On to what I do mean in terms of a value exchange. So on the left, we have what is pretty much always offered and something you should always be offering, and that's payment and tagging. It's just common decency these days. The next column are things that are sometimes offered, and I hope we'll see more of them this year. So affiliate marketing has been somewhat on the decline, but recently influencers are really loving the ability to have a value exchange with their followers. So there's a huge appetite for them again. There's also media interviews. When you can tie an influencer into a wider PR story and can use them as a spokesperson, it's mutually beneficial for you to have an eye-grabbing name that has lots of followers, and for them to be able to grow the spaces they show up in to their existing audience and for new audiences as well. Finally, the bits that are rarely offered and we should definitely consider for all influencer collaborations going into 2024. Firstly, if you have a newsletter offering the influencer a new way to introduce themselves to your audience, you can do it by including their content or a quote. And similarly, microsite inclusion, taking the time to include them in your website plans when you do build those for bigger campaigns, so they have something to proudly show off in their media packs. For example, on the right, we have this example from Pepper Studio, where Candice's content has gone beyond just Instagram and actually onto the Week Kids website. The same goes for blog content, particularly if the influencer already writes a blog themselves. We're definitely seeing a bit of a resurgence in that as well, not just in travel and food, but in other industries as well. You can use your active readership to direct towards their content, which is really fantastic for them. And finally, product curation. So traditionally, this has really been reserved for more of a celebrity status influencer, but it can definitely trickle down when you find someone who really appeals to your audience. And I'm certain we're going to see more of it going into 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, guys. I'm Rich. I'm head of social at Alfred, and my prediction is centered on the importance of attention metrics and their impact on content. So when it comes to social media reporting, I'm sure we all know, particularly for organic content, we often highlight meaningful engagement as a key marker of success. So this can include actions such as shares, saves, favorites, and comments, all of which indicate a level of effort or intent from someone engaging with content. However, with the growing dominance of video-first platforms, there's a shift towards valuing intention-based metrics such as average watch times, completion rates, and drop-offs. These metrics offer deeper insight into audience perceptions of our content, going beyond the vanity value of video views and likes. This trend towards prioritizing attention is evident across various cultural forms. For example, in music, we're witnessing songs with shorter intros to quicken the arrival of the chorus. Streaming services urge filmmakers to minimize long, uncut scenes, fearing audiences' disinterest. In social media, brands and creators are adopting innovative, sometimes baffling strategies to maintain viewer attention. We're in the new era of attention hacking. We're observing the rise of videos with multiple simultaneous clips, ranging from feature films to AI-narrated Reddit stories, alongside soothing ASMR sand pouring style videos. Termed sludge content, this relatively new format is particularly perplexing to anyone above 18, but to many younger users, this multi-sensory video experience keeps them watching for longer. There's also the resurgence of rapid, short-edited content. A prime example is the Kardashian kids, who have kind of joint accounts with their parents, which forgo smooth transitions in favor of abrupt, attention-grabbing edits. This style resonates with shorter attention spans, offering a vibe rather than a complete narrative. So, next slide, please, Danny. So, how can your brand adapt to this change? Well, with traditional narratives becoming more predictable and less engaging, embracing the unexpected is crucial. So considering starting your content in the middle or even at the end to surprise your audience. For example, Hilton's 10-minute ad that they brought out on TikTok perfectly illustrates this approach, intriguing viewers with its unpredictable storylines, not having any idea who was going to turn up, and effectively just, making viewers sit through what is, like I said, effectively a 10-minute ad, which is pretty unheard of. Contrary to what you might expect, slowing things down can be effective too. Only some people seek rapid, high-intensity content. So for every yin, there's a yang. Some people fall slower, more focused material. I think the Wes Anderson trend perfectly captures this preference with this like aesthetically pleasing, lingering shots of the mundane that actually ended up delighting hundreds of millions of people. Lastly, don't be afraid to lean in when it makes sense. Explore and test how your content can cater to shorter attention spans by breaking down longer pieces into multiple short clips. Take inspiration from what Paramount did when celebrated the remake of Mean Girls by releasing the original film in short segments via TikTok for one day only, October 3rd, obviously. So for 2024, have fun with trying to hold your audience attention, test and learn, and as the old saying goes, if you can't beat them, join them. Thank you, and I will hand you over to Rachel.
Thanks, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm Rachel. I'm a strategy director at Amplify, a global creative agency. I sit in the culture and comms team. This year, there's been lots of discussion around this year being, I guess, the coming of age for Gen Alpha, aka screenagers, aka mini millennials, as they head into kind of their early teens and have definitely become much more influential on their parents' buying habits and buying decisions. So next slide, please. And I'm sure many of you saw this video that went viral just before the holidays. So Gen Alpha, Nicole Pellegrino's younger sister, talking about all things that are in and out. And it just became viral. Everybody started kind of questioning, all the slang that the older Gen Zs had popularized and now, paling into insignificance. And it just makes an interesting turning point. There's lots of marketers, I'm sure many people on this chat will probably be thinking about navigating towards this kind of next wave of youth culture behaviors. So a group that kind of never knew a world offline. So I thought I would do my ins and outs. If you go to the next slide, please, Danny. So I guess one of the things that is always quite funny is kind of, especially older millennials and kind of Gen Xers kind of talking about, life before smartphones, nobody really talking to strangers anymore. No, you can't even read a physical book anymore. So I think a lot of these comments will become even more relevant and more kind of historical according to Gen Alpha. Using social media to fill spare time. So GWI do a brilliant job of every year kind of coming out with a report, especially on social media usage, and it was quite interesting to see this kind of quite significant drop in how young people are skewed towards Gen Alpha and the younger Gen Z are actually using social media, and that's drops happened since 2021, especially post the panini, I'm going to call it. And then mindless scrolling and sharing branded content on Instagram. I think especially what we've seen amplify over the last few months, we are seeing lots of conversations around, this younger generation living in this kind of e-commerce bubble. They're much more attuned to how brands and marketing work. They know the ins and outs, how your publicists work and how PR works. So it's really interesting that they are even more attuned to kind of ads cut down as, social media content. So that was one to watch. And as well as just Instagram. Instagram has been kind of declining with the younger generations, and it's looking like it will kind of flatline completely in 2024 in favor of platforms like YouTube for this younger generation. And then so brand relationships formed through talent. I think, again, I mentioned YouTube at the top. I think there's a really interesting kind of formula that's happening around kind of content that really performs, and the stuff that we're seeing resonating especially is lots more kind of steer around original content, especially those that are fronted by their favorite creators. They're still a huge part of the lives of Gen Alpha, and they'll be even more kind of impactful the more kind of original, the more kind of interesting those storylines are, and a little bit braver that they are as well. Gen Z feeling a lot older, so I think, I mean, this happens with every generation, don't they? We know a younger generation realizes that the older generation complains that they're annoying, in spite of this kind of happening every year. And there's lots of similarities still between them, but in particular, there's been lots of kind of Gen Z teachers wrestling with younger Gen Alpha students complaining how kind of confident they are, how kind of rude they are, and especially the same kind of comments that a lot of people had said about Gen Z. And then finally, kind of guess more interestingly from our perspective, especially, is kind of more world building, more participatory, kind of social. Gaming is social has been something that's been talked about in the last year in particular. So anything that we've seen on Minecraft, Roblox, especially some of the more kind of huge societal trends around kind of protests happening on Roblox, things that are happening on Fortnite. I think there's lots more participating, lots more content creation, and less kind of, branded content sharing. And that's it. Handing over.
Great, thanks, Rachel. Hi everyone, I'm Becca Marchant from M&C Saatchi Talk, and today I want to take you through a trend that I believe will have a significant impact in 2024, the increasing importance of brand reputation. In an era of growing consumer skepticism, it's crucial for brands to prioritise trust and authenticity more than ever, and right now it's clear that the trust gap is growing. So according to the TikTok 2024 trend report, there continues to be a growing trust gap between consumers and brands, meaning that audiences are seeking opportunities to engage beyond a one-time sale. We know they are also looking for brands to lead on positive societal change and transparency, which isn't an easy feat for most brands. And this is especially true when it comes to Gen Z, something actually Olivia mentioned. So establishing clear brand trust and values are non-negotiables with this audience. It's now more important than ever to trust the brands we buy, and when it goes wrong or consumers spot a lack of authenticity, it can have a major impact and be extremely hard to win audiences back. So listening to what audiences want and expect is a crucial part of understanding how to bridge that gap. So what exactly do audiences want? From listening to a range of touch points, we can start to understand how we can build trust and enhance brand reputation. You have to actually start with getting voices heard. So it's really clear from looking at the stats that there are a few ways brands can positively engage with consumers. And a clear winner is for brands to start looking internally, which can have major benefits externally. We all know that influencer marketing thrives on the authenticity and unique perspectives that audiences trust. And employees also hold a unique form of validation, their brand knowledge. So when that's coupled with a genuine passion for the brand they represent, trust naturally follows. And this doesn't have to mean a huge corporate thought leadership program. Examples like Sheer Lux are great when they show employees and the talent that they have, creating content that's on trend and connecting with the target audience. It's also clear from the data that audiences like ads, surprisingly. When they're aligned with their interests and native to the platform, they enhance trust and brand loyalty. So what does brand building look like in 2024? Next slide, please, Danny. Firstly, seamless consumer experiences, we know, foster trust and reliability. When consumers encounter a brand that consistently delivers a cohesive experience, they develop a sense of familiarity, reliability, and trust. This trust cultivates in customer loyalty and encourages repeat purchases, advocacy, and positive word of mouth. This means ensuring that messaging, visual identity, tone of voice, and brand values remain consistent across different platforms and touch points, be that social, website, physical stores, even customer service interactions. Then secondly, in today's crowded marketplace, brands need to take an active role in shaping and actually leading conversations around topics that are relevant and important to their target audience. By doing so, brands can engage their audience on a much deeper level, stand out from competitors, and cultivate brand advocates at the same time. Looking at new formats to engage audiences is always best practice. And for example, LinkedIn's thought leadership ad format, which offers a fresh opportunity to connect and engage in a meaningful way, or partnering with creators on a TikTok Shop Live, are all ways that we can start to lead those conversations. And finally, embracing SEO is a crucial part of the mix, as visibility on Google remains a key factor in brand discovery. When implemented correctly, SEO can supercharge the brand's impact. SEO not only helps improve visibility and brand discovery, but also enhances brand credibility and trust. When a brand consistently appears high in search engine rankings, it signals users that the brand is reputable, reliable, and authoritative in its field. This boost in credibility can positively impact consumer perceptions and increase the likelihood of engagement and conversions. So I'm looking forward to seeing how brand trust stats develop this year, the brands that get it right, of course the ones that don't, and how social continues to shape the relationship between brand and consumer. Thank you very much. That's it from me.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy, Director of Digital at Hanover, and I am bravely, as someone who is firmly a millennial, talk to you about TikTok and its continued dominance and evolution in 2024. So if we go on to the next slide, TikTok might sit still as sort of sixth most frequently used social media app behind sort of the obvious giants. But it was the app that by far took the shortest time to reach 1 billion users compared to its counterparts such as Meta and X. And that growth is absolutely not slowing down. So the app is embedded into the lives of many globally, as these stats show. We're seeing sort of, over 50% of Gen Z using the platform, as well as Instagram, for actually searching for their news, for searching for anything that they want to find instead of Google. It's well over 1 billion videos that are viewed every day, and 1.44 billion is the predicted number that we'll see in 2025, which is not very far away. And obviously, one of the key things is that there is something for everybody on the platform, no matter what it is that brings you joy, no matter what it is that entertains you and stops you scrolling, there is something for everybody. And the growth of TikTok and the relevance of the platform is definitely not going to slow down this year. And it's actually very much no longer reserved for the Gen Zs of the world. The sort of 26 to 34 age group is the fastest growing. And so TikTok has always been hailed as the app that other platforms want to copy. Everybody scrambled to catch up with vertical video when it first launched, and increasingly we've seen how trends from TikTok are sort of spread onto other channels very quickly. But it's not actually the video format that everyone sort of is addicted to. It's not always the songs that TikTok sort of launches into the music charts, or the sort of viral dances that people can't stop trying to nail. Although actually it might be all of those things. And I think, what attracts and retains people to the app is exactly that. Whatever they find that brings them joy, whatever it is that stops them scrolling. And the app sort of screams authenticity and creativity. And this is where I think it's going to continue to evolve and dominate against other platforms. So if we go on to the next slide. So what is it next sort of for the app that seems to have it all figured out? And TikTok themselves in their 2024 trends report, which I know quite a few people have referred to already, have sort of coined the term creative bravery themselves. And they see this very much as the direction that the app, sort of the users and brands and businesses will focus on and will sort of be the North Star for 2024. So what do we predict that actually means for brands, for businesses, demonstrating this same mindset that they talk about here with creative bravery? It will build those deeper connections with the communities that they are seeking to engage, and taking those strategic risks and being vulnerable is what's going to get results for brands and businesses using the platform. And then for users on the channel, that longer form TikTok content, I know others have also mentioned, is going to be much more seen as sort of dispersed amongst the short form, giving users the choice and deciding how long and what they want to watch against those sort of traditional short TikTok styles. And we are going to see more brand partnerships and advertising. It's definitely a focus for the app, but it's going to be very much done authentically and likely through lots of your favorite creators. And then finally, if we go on to the next slide, what are the sort of 3 things that we think will play out for businesses, for brands, for agencies and individuals trying to master the platform and lead the way when it comes to creative bravery? So content that enters into existing communities and stops users mid-scroll by actually aligning with what audience need and what they're curious about will be sort of king in creating that engagement on the platform. For brands and businesses particularly, proudly showcasing what makes them unique, what is the culture, what are the connections, and sort of what makes you or your business different is also going to really tap into that sort of creative bravery mindset of users on the app. And finally, create the unexpected through community co-creation, lean into lightheartedness and shared life experiences is another way that you as a business and brand are going to be able to be a little bit more strategically brave and let go potentially of some of the usual ownership that you might have on content and really lean into this sort of authentic co-creation space even more so. So I'm looking forward to getting even more addicted to TikTok myself this year and seeing quite how this sort of creative bravery plays out for businesses and brands on the app. And I'll hand over to the next speaker.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I am Associate Director in the digital team at Grayling. I first want to thank Amy for teeing up my prediction with some of the content that she just spoke about. So I am talking about the rebirth of long form content. I'm not talking about kind of blogs, but thinking about video. So for as long as I can remember, we have been told that people's attention spans are getting shorter. We don't want to sit through a long video. We really want to see the next piece of content. And while some of those studies have been debunked in the past, I do think there's merit in the fact that the sheer wealth of content that's out there for people to watch means that we can really easily just skip something if it's just really not kind of, you know, interesting to us. So on the next slide, I've just got a very exciting GIF from Up of the dog who is excited about squirrels. Now, this is kind of the way that I think marketers view people's attention spans on social, but we've all spoken about TikTok, and I'm afraid I'm also going to speak about TikTok. Things are changing on TikTok. So at the end of last year, on the next slide, Danny, I've just put a screenshot of a piece of coverage that we saw that TikTok announced that actually their users spend half of their time watching content that's over a minute long. And they also told creators in a big creator meeting in the US that those who created videos that were longer than a minute also saw 5 times the growth in followers than people who only posted short videos. And, you know, TikTok haven't made any secret of the fact that they are trying to position themselves as an entertainment app rather than that kind of straight social media app. And they are kind of thinking of themselves among the likes of YouTube, which is obviously the original destination for longer form video content. And there's also been a lot of conversation around the fact that TikTok's actually had some issues monetizing the app, thinking about the way that advertisers are using the app to reach their audiences. And it might be that long form video is a step to making that easier for them. So if you think about YouTube, when you watch a video, it's long, you kind of accept the fact you're probably going to have to watch a pre-roll video first, and you might have to see something mid-roll before you watch the end of the video. So it might be that TikTok is trying to create a similar business model. Now, they are so committed to kind of minute plus videos that they have made the point of telling creators who are part of the creator fund that only videos that are over a minute long will be eligible for monetization. So creators creating a video that is kind of 30 seconds long will not make any money off that video. So they are actively encouraging creators to make that content. And obviously it still has to be entertaining. To Rich's point earlier, you know, they're using attention hacking tactics to keep us watching. So it still has to be entertaining, but we are also slightly being conditioned by the platform to watch longer video because we're being served it more often and we're getting more used to it. And obviously what TikTok does, I think, as almost all of us have said, the other platforms tend to follow. So on the next slide, another GIF, very exciting. But what does that mean for you? I think the first thing to say is don't panic. I get that creating video can be quite expensive, and especially creating video that is, 60 seconds plus takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of investment, not only time and budget, but also creative investment. So the first point stays the same, stays true, whatever you're making, it's quality over quantity. And in terms of quantity, we're talking about length. So you should only be making those long form videos if you have the content and you have the creative idea to make them engaging and attractive to your audience. If you don't, then it's about sticking with what you can do well and what will engage your audience. It's also thinking about the influencers and creators that you work with. If you are giving them briefs that very specifically say they have to be creating short content, but that's not what their audience is used to, you need to work with them and you need to listen. And if they want to create a longer form video for you, let them do it. It might impact budgets, and that will be something that you'll have to work out, but it might be better for your brand. And thirdly, it's been mentioned that TikTok especially is now being used as a search engine by younger people. So where you might have traditionally put longer form instructional videos on YouTube, maybe it's a case of trialing, making more entertaining instructional videos and trialing them on TikTok in the same way that you would have done previously on YouTube. So yeah, trial and error, but embrace the longer form content. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Imogen. I am Associate Partner and Head of Digital at Milk and Honey PR, and thank you for joining today. It's really wonderful to see so many of you. Today I will be discussing the impact of AI across search engine optimization practices. I really believe in 2024 we can expect the impact of AI on SEO to really deepen and reshape the digital landscape. So moving on to the next slide. So what I think this means is AI will essentially play a really pivotal role in refining search algorithms with a focus on understanding user intent a lot more intricately. So a prime example of this already is the introduction of Google's RankBrain algorithm, which is now capable of understanding user intent and context. So as machine learning modules continue to advance, really search engines are likely to evolve as well to a point where they can predict user needs, which sounds a little bit scary, but this will come with unprecedented accuracy. And what it fundamentally means is that we'll be able to render search results a lot more relevant and personalized, which is what we all really want when we're across search engines like Google. So what this means for SEOs and digital marketers is that we really need to be able to determine the type of content that best serves users' needs in order to rank well. And this means kind of ticking off traditional signals, but kind of such as diversity and content depth and keyword matching, but making sure that it's really humanized content. And as I said, very much tailored. So on to the next slide. So furthermore, as has been practiced for some time, and what this will feed into is positive UX, which hopefully, and as we all know, can lead to higher engagement on site and better click-through rate as well, which in turn will positively impact SEO. However, with the support of AI-driven chatbots and conversational interfaces, we can expect these tools to become even more integral components of SEO, just to help enhance those user experiences and interaction across site as well. So very quick and short, but to summarize, I think websites that offer that valuable, accessible and user-friendly content via the integration of AI into SEO practices will really be the ones to see a boost in their search engine rankings. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Imogen. So there you have it. I'm kind of astounded that we've managed to get through all of that in only 45 minutes. So massive thank you to all the speakers for keeping things snappy, but lots and lots of really, really great stuff there. If you do have any questions, please do put them in the Q&A box, as we do have a few minutes left. We do have one, I think probably for Richard, on the back of your one, Richard. The question is, are you watching or aware of any attention metrics that go beyond video content type? So Richard, if you're still online, and if you've got, oh, I see you've put it in, you've put your response in already. I've only just seen that.
Yeah,
but
sorry,
do you want to expand any more on it, Richard?
I answered it as I kind of read it in terms of yeah, like we typically focus on sort of like 2 to 3 different kind of video attention metrics, which is kind of average watch time, completion rates, and then also kind of that drop-off piece, especially kind of around TikTok. And it was just kind of like basically building on how we kind of use that to inform a lot of our kind of increasingly our narrative decisions that we're making about our content. So in terms of like understanding the hooks that worked, and kind of, and if there's any particular trends in terms of where we're seeing drop-offs for content as well. And then when we're kind of feeding that into our planning piece, and just understanding like where we can kind of make those like subtle tweaks and kind of test as well. So yeah, it's proving really helpful in terms of just kind of like, yeah, feeding into kind of some of those bigger creative decisions as well.
Amazing. Thank you for that. We've got a question here, which Rachel might be one for you potentially. The question is, what sort of long form content do you see Gen Z interacting with the most? Is it educational or entertainment? Is it dictated by the platform? I don't know if that's something you've got any thoughts on, or anyone else that talked about long form content.
I didn't actually talk about long form content, but I can quickly jump in just because it's something that we've been talking about. It's definitely from an entertainment perspective. There's a really interesting trend on TikTok in particular around whole kind of TV shows being cut into kind of TikTok sized shorts. So it's a really interesting trend. It's definitely more I'm seeing anyway from an entertainment perspective. But I'm sure there'll be other opinions on that as well.
Yeah, Teresa, Amy, I know you guys both talked about long form. Do you want to add anything on that?
I would say it probably is dictated by the platform. I think if you think about TikTok, and I know we've spoken a lot about TikTok, but if you think about TikTok, most of that content is kind of entertainment in some way. So it might be kind of educational entertainment, but there's still that entertainment piece. So I would say that it is dictated by the platform, but probably entertainment.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to jump in, I think just listening to some of the things that TikTok have been talking to us about recently, and as Teresa said, we are talking a lot about TikTok here, but I think as the platform that's moving further into it, they are definitely trying to push that type of content, but equally not trying to change the things, or not suggesting that people change the things that quite clearly the users love. So it is that lightheartedness, it is things that bring people joy, it is things that sort of stop people scrolling and ignite their curiosity. So a mix of different things, but I think largely still going to be focused in that space.
Yeah, I just was going to add, I can't remember where the terms come from. I definitely didn't coin it myself, but edutainment as a content form. So it's educational content that is entertaining. Like, it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. That's what I think is so interesting about TikTok, especially, and how that's kind of really been like the biggest trend that we've seen on there.
Yeah, I almost said that, and then I thought, well, I cringe if I say the word.
I don't mind making people cringe.
New buzzword for everybody. Amazing. And Kate, I thought your audio stuff was really interesting. There's a question here around oh, it's just disappeared. I think somebody was replying to it. Do you think real voices are better on TikTok, Instagram, or AI generated audio? I don't know if you've got any particular thoughts on that.
Yeah, what my note was back to the author of the question was, my answer is always, if you're a brand, I'd probably say one thing, whereas, when you're individuals, you can kind of do whatever. I suppose if you're looking at it from a brand point of view, and you're actually going to really, truly incorporate sort of a voiceover narrative in your into your content, I think if it's like a how-to, or you're trying to, explain like what's a day in the life of working in the office, for example, or how to do something, I want to hear a personal voice. I want that personal touch. But when you're tapping into some of those sort of cutesy, like more sort of, I guess, the quicker kind of, here's I'm trying to think of like the stuff that people were just doing for New Year's, whatever, and here's the end of 2023. I think those AI voices can quite work, but that's more like a trending sound, and that's different. So personal story, make it human. Trending sound, AI is fine.
And there's another one, Kate, here around trending sounds on TikTok. Do they perform as well on Instagram?
So I think you'll see a lot of them going over in the same one. I talked about Benjamin's Deli, so I'm just going to use that because it's the one that's sort of top of mind. Funny enough, I saw it on both platforms, and so I know people were jumping on it because it was working on one, it'll work on the other. But I think coming back to Each platform is kind of making recommendations. So you know you can actually go in and see trending sounds specifically in TikTok to see what is working. If you're a brand, there is a separate view of what you can use, even for those, so you are less worried about the copyright issues. I don't think Instagram is as sophisticated as that, but when you do go in and you look at sounds, you can see how many people have used something. You can save those down. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answered the question.
Great. Thanks, Kate. And Candice, I think this is definitely one for you because I know you've got lots of thoughts on this one. Any predictions for Twitter this year? Will it survive?
I think it's already dead. Twitter, you know, is rest in peace. There's a different new thing that's run by someone who's absolutely crazy, in my opinion. So it probably won't die completely as a platform, meaning the thing itself will chug on. My personal view of this is there's an awful lot of both brands and individual people who invested quite a lot of both love, attention, and time into Twitter and built up a big following, and they just don't know where else to go. They don't know what to do, and they're kind of in denial that the place is toxic now. So they're clinging on because it's the only place where they have thousands of, you know, quote unquote followers. I work with a charity actually that has been very successful on Twitter, but they're in this niche world where so far it's okay, you know, that the haters are not in that particular discipline. So he's going to do more crazy things. My prediction is Elon Musk will do something none of us expect, none of us would ever want him to do, and it's going to be weird and it's going to be bad. That's my prediction.
Excellent. Love that one. Thank you. Imogen, the SEO stuff, I think, and AI stuff is fascinating, and it feels as though we probably needed a whole hour on that one. There's a question here saying, I've seen SEOs on Twitter saying that they are seeing AI-generated content adversely affecting search engine visibility. Is there anything that you've seen or seeing on that sort of side of things that people should be aware of?
Sure, I think people are prone and sort of notice when things are being written by the likes of ChatGPT, for example. And I think the thing we have to consider here is that these are tools at the end of the day. And kind of to the point I made in the presentation, people want human tailored content. So I would never say to anybody, oh yeah, go ahead, write copy for your website on ChatGPT and then just copy and paste it. I think we as humans or brand owners, we know our audience and we can do extra research, whether that's qualitative, for example, or sort of listening to really understand their needs and what they want to hear and so on. But I'd say don't dismiss AI completely because it can be there to support you and prompt if needed. And again, things like chatbots and so on, or sort of filtering systems in the back end when we're placing ads and so on, they're already being used. They're already AI generated. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that they are anyway. So I don't think it's going to affect us negatively if used in the right way. Just don't lose that human touch, essentially.
Amazing, thank you. Well, look, it's coming towards the top of the hour, so I think we should probably end it there. There are a few more questions, but I know the panelists have been kind of responding to people in line as well. So hopefully your question is or will be answered as quickly as possible. If you do have any other questions, then please do feel free to email us directly on any of that, and we'd be more than happy to connect you up with the person that presented that particular prediction. And as I say, we will definitely make sure that all of these slides are available to you as well, in case you want to go back through anything in your own time. So hopefully you found that an interesting session. We are looking to run more webinars like this throughout the year from the PRCA Digital Group. So please do, well, now that you've been to this webinar, you will automatically be sent any information about those future events. So please do look out for those. And just a quick note to flag that there is a January sale. Of course there is. For PRCA training. So if you are interested in further digital training for you or your colleagues or your teams, then there's 20% off using the Jan Sale 24 code. More information on the PRCA website, but there's lots of really great stuff on there, lots of training around TikTok, Reddit, all of those sorts of things, as well as a 2-day digital masterclass, which digs into many of these topics in a lot more detail. So please do check that out. But apart from that, thank you again for attending. It's been great to see so many people involved, and hopefully you can take some of this thinking into your work and into your activities through 2024. So from me, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.